Welcome back to the Producer Podcast Highlights. I'm your host, Micah Versman, and today we have another special compilation episode of the show. So without further ado, let's get started. Today, on the Season 3 compilation episode of the Producer Podcast, we're excited to be talking with our Season 3 guest about how to balance film life with a family life. So to start things off, we'll hear from Nathaniel Schexnayder. Nathaniel was the producer on the superhero short film Night Guard.
Yes, so I'm married. I have 3 kids who are all under the age of 4, and they definitely are very time consuming. And so, having siblings who are single or they're married with no kids, who do film semi-professionally, it's I look at them and I go, they just have a huge opportunity that I don't have anymore. And it's tough to basically say, at least for me, and this is kind of the place where I'm at, is, this is kind of a hobby, and it's my hobby, and I love it, but it's time consuming. It costs a lot of money. And maybe someday it won't be a hobby, but for now it definitely takes a back burner to kind of everything else that I do, work, family. And it's, when I can get to it, I'll get to it. But my family is very supportive that, when I've got to do it, I could be there and focus on it, 100%. But it just means that, things don't happen as fast for, I'm not on as many movie sets as I'd like to. But that's okay, because for me, I think where I'm at is there are different seasons in life for all of us. If you're content with where you are with your season of life, you can just let things happen as they come to you. You can let the Lord bring things to you or not bring things to you and opportunities. And I don't know that I'll be doing, film stuff forever. I don't have a major passion for it necessarily, but it's like, once you get a new idea, you got to go for it. That balance is all right. Family things come first. You gotta buy a van before you buy a camera sometimes. And that's okay. That's a good season of life to be in still. And I think the advice that I would give somebody is, right. Movie making is, unless it's your full-time gig, it's a hobby, and it can be a really important hobby. You can invest, a lot of time and effort and money and make something that's really good. I'm not saying you can't do that. But I think when you have a season of life where you have a family, I think it's okay to be in that season. And maybe in 20 years, you can do filming again, and you can devote more of your time to that. And maybe you'll have more. Yeah. And so there may be more opportunities later. I know we want to accomplish great things when we're young, but I think about Moses in Exodus, where around age 40, he had been trained by his adoptive family, these Egyptians, to be kind of a ruler. Right. He was a prince of Egypt. And at age 40, he thought he was ready to lead a rebellion against the Egyptians. He's attacking Egyptians and killing them, breaking up brawls and things like that. And then all of a sudden he's running for his life and spending 40 more years in the wilderness. But at the end of that 40 years, God is ready to use him for something huge. And at that time, Moses is ready. He's been humbled. He's ready to be used by God. And I think it's tough to accept the fact that maybe this is not the season where you're going to be doing great things, but maybe the things that you're called to do right now are great. And down the road, you're going to have the insight and wisdom and maturity to pursue your dream at a level that, we couldn't initially imagine 20 years ago.
Up next, we're going to hear from Patrick Murphy. Patrick works at Kappa Studios, a post-production house out in Burbank, California.
I guess my answer is just like you're scheduling, what you're going to do every day on a given project. Like today I'm going to make proxies, or today I'm going to go ahead and conform the timeline and prep it for color and resolve, or whatever it is you're doing. Take that same discipline that you're applying to your trade or to your client's project and apply it to your life. Make time for your child, make time for your wife, have that conversation, even if it's just 20 minutes. 20 minutes is not a lot of time. I mean, I'll be honest, at 20 minutes, there's not a lot I can do in post in 20 minutes, to be frank. But a 20-minute conversation may be all that you need to feel connected with your kid or your wife or your significant other. And I think it'll pay off in dividends in terms of your overall life happiness. Because to forgo that has much bigger consequences. And I've shared that. There's been shows that there was one show that I had 9 months with no day off.
Oh, wow.
That's when I was working in visual effects. And it was on a big show, and a lot of the guys and the gals that were working on that show, we were all having family problems. And it was after that I realized I need to be more disciplined about how I handle my career and how I handle time with my family. Luckily, things worked out, of course, but not of course, but just luckily things worked out. But the takeaway is, if I can go ahead and schedule a meeting with you, for example, I can schedule to make sure that I'm home at a certain time to have dinner with my daughter or my fiance. So, yeah.
Next up, we have Nathan Tauk. Nathan is an Illinois-based filmmaker who focuses primarily in the realm of broadcast and live stream productions.
It is incredibly difficult, especially in the world of broadcast. The divorce rates are high. The single parenthood is high. I happen to be one of the statistics. And it is something that I deeply care about, and why everyone that I hire, I say, if you need to go, if you need to take care of something, at the drop of a hat, you let me know. And that attitude is so important. And that family natured business that you see in small businesses, and that's my dad talking. That's my 100% my dad, because my dad is a family man, and he taught me that very clearly. And there was a time in my life that I didn't. I was so consumed with my career, and so I was looking for that. Oh, what's that next project? What's that next thing? I was so consumed with that eventually things kind of came to a point where I was like, all right, I need to tame it down. Nothing is more important than family. And it wasn't, and the funny thing, it wasn't even a money thing. It wasn't even a status thing. It was just the craving to work, and workaholic. A lot of people in the industry are workaholics, and they really don't know how bad it is until they stop. And you saw a lot of unrest. We saw a lot of people in 2020 just at a complete loss of what to do with their lives, because all they did was work. Everything that they could ever do was be on that next project, and boom, it's gone. And then boredom sets in, frustration sets in, your mental health goes. That's when problems start. And I know there was a time in 2020 where I was just looking at my desk and saying, wow, there's nothing on the calendar this month. And being so incredibly stressed and so worked up. And I thought, well, I shouldn't be thinking about that this way. I should be thinking, look at all this time I have to spend with my daughter and my family. Because the work's coming back. You can always make more money. You'll always get that opportunity to stress yourself out. Don't worry, Mr. 500 tabs open on your computer. Not one of those things on B&H is going to save $1 worth of time with your family. Wake up. Go see mom. Go see dad. Go see grandpa. You know, if you have a family, take care of them. And that's been rooted in me for a long time. But I'm in the same boat as I'm sure a lot of you may be, that you get so consumed with your work that you forget to take a walk. You forget to call someone. You forget to take care of yourself. Get yourself a cup of coffee that isn't 3 days old. But you need the balance. You have to have work-life balance. And if you think you don't, you're lying to yourself. You really are, because you're missing out on a lot. No work on your table is more important than your family. No work on your table is more important than you. Because this isn't going anywhere. But you stress yourself out enough, you don't take care of your body enough, you don't take care of your family enough, you never know what you can lose. So you have to work on yourself, work on your family, then comes work. In that order. Because you're no good to your family if you don't take care of yourself either. One of the biggest things that I found that works, because I was a laptop on the table kind of person, and I'm sure, show of hands in this imaginary scenario, how many people eat their meal with their laptop open or at their desk? Do you eat dinner at a table? Do you eat lunch at a table by yourself without any distractions? Do you eat breakfast at a table without any distractions? When was the last time you sat on your porch and had a cup of coffee with your wife, your girlfriend, your daughter, your son? Putting the electronics away and just spending that moment. Now, why don't you do that regularly? Somebody told me that a while back, and I felt so attacked. Because at that very moment, I was sitting at my desk with 3 projects open, eating 3 pieces of pizza with a beer and a Coke. And I was thinking, all right, yeah, okay. And the next day, it's like, shoot, I gotta buy a table. Just those little things, can make a world of difference. Take an hour after a project. Get off the phone. Do something else. I don't care what it is. Watch a movie. Watch a movie with your family. Go for a walk. Work out. Clean your dirty office that's covered in garbage right now. Find something other than your work to preoccupy your time. Just do 30 minutes, an hour after something stressful. It makes a world of difference.
Next, we're joined by Tim Mahoney. Tim is a documentary filmmaker best known for his Patterns of Evidence series.
Well, make films about your family and then you do both.
Very true.
Yeah, I think that everything in life is like that. Is trying to find the balance between. Well, it could even be if you're single, just how do I have a healthy life and not just do one thing or the other, one thing to the exclusion of the other, or exercise. And I think it takes a discipline. And that was a problem in my own life because I built a recording studio in my home. And so I would work all day, and then I would go downstairs, and I had a band that I was recording, and then I would work on Saturdays. And my wife had these, we had 4 kids when by the time we were 30, and she was a nervous wreck because she also had to keep the kids quiet because we were down in the basement. So how do you keep these kids quiet and I'm never around? And she actually got depressed for a while. And finally, one of my friends said, "Hey, your wife is not happy." And I said, "What are you talking about?" And he goes, "Yeah, I can tell you, your wife's not happy." And I couldn't see any of that. I was just focused on, building my career. I was still working in the body shop in the day, doing the recording studio. Then I started making a film, and everything was all about all the things that I had to do. And so I had to readjust, and my wife has been very patient over the years with me. And so I've tried to reward this by her being a part of it. And she's slowly become more and more involved with the business, and she travels with me. So we've traveled to Europe a lot, to the Middle East, and I've taught her how to do sound. And she helps me with a lot of the work that I'm doing. So I've incorporated her in. I'm thankful that she was willing to do that. And so that's one way. But I do think you have to be careful because none of my kids are interested in being involved with film. They all have different interests. None of them wanted to be a musician. Everything that I was so interested in, they're not interested in. And so I don't really have a business to pass on to anybody because they're interested in other things. And it could be that I didn't give them the best example of what a healthy life was like. I was so focused on the career. And I can say that I have been fortunate and I've been successful, but you have to be careful about success, that you don't do it at the price of your own family. And I think maybe that's where the question comes from. Um, it takes a lot of effort. Like I'm getting up at 6 a.m. to get to the office at 7, so I can edit for 5 hours, and then I go to other meetings, and then I can come back to editing because I'm trying to get another film done. But I'm also distributing a second film, and I'm also raising money and developing a variety of things, and so there's many hats that you have to wear. So I think that you just have to be patient too, and don't give up. I think my advice to a lot of filmmakers is, if you really want to be a filmmaker, then you just need to take one step after another. And this might take years. I'm at a place now, but it's taken me many, many years to get to this place where I can actually have films in theaters and sell films direct. But had I not stuck with it, I wouldn't be here today.
And wrapping up this conversation on how to balance family and film, we have Chad Gunderson. Chad is one of the producers on the show The Chosen, the first multi-season TV show about the life of Jesus Christ.
That's huge. I mean, it couldn't be more. If there was one thing that I focus on the most within my job, it's that balance right there. All the way to the point where my wife and I, very early on, like all the way back when Dallas and I, did that first film together 15 years ago, and I've been married for 17 years now, and it's been more than 15 years ago because my wife and I were just married about a year when we made that film.
Okay.
And so we things like, we have a 2-week rule. We never spend more than 2 weeks apart, wherever I'm at in the world, wherever project I'm on, whatever it is. And so either my wife and kids are packing up and coming to me, or I'm coming home, and sure, there's been times where we may have gone a little bit over that 2-week rule, but for the most part, that's our rule. We just don't spend more than 2 weeks apart. So they'll come and they'll hang out and they'll do whatever and all those types of things and just be there. And then from there, just always keeping in mind what the priorities are, and we treat everybody on our show this way. For example, we had a very, very important individual on our show this past season that within a 2-week period, both her dad and her brother passed away. So very big traumatic moment for this individual. And of course, her position is extremely important, very, very high level. But it was one of those things where none of us even blinked. We're like, you leave right now and go take care of your family. And you do what needs to be done. Like, we don't care about the show. We don't care about that. We'll figure all this stuff out. And she'll even say, kind of coming back, she goes, it was just great to feel that support. And we treat everybody that way. If they have a problem, if there's a sick kid at home, or there's an issue, or a wife or a husband or a mom or a dad needs something, and we find that out, and we find out that people aren't going and address that, we're just like, no, you go get on a plane right now and you go home and you take care of it. When you're ready to come back, you can come back if you need to come back at all. And if you don't need to come back, that's fine. We're not going to hold it against you. You're not going to be mad about it or any of those things. And so it's just, it's a family first sort of thing, right? Which obviously is an extremely biblical thing, right? I mean, family has got to take priority. And, it's just kind of that whole, if God is first, then all the other priorities kind of come in line, and so, and that's a big, big thing for us. And so we encourage that, because this industry is very, very hard to have a family, right? I mean, it's kind of almost a joke within the industry of, oh, well, that other couple's getting divorced. Oh, what a big surprise. Oh my gosh, like, oh, that kid got screwed up because his parents were whatever, right? You just hear the stories, and some of them are stereotypes and some of them are real. And so it is something that we do focus on a lot, and it's important to Dallas. Dallas is a family man. I'm a family man. Chris is. The other producers are. We're all family people, and we're very family oriented. And so, but we also find out that when people feel like they're being taken care of, then they work that much harder, right? Versus their work is not going to be good if they're sitting there stressing about what's going on at home because my kid is sick, or my wife needs something, or my husband is whatever. Like, pick the issue, right? And people don't work well that way. Versus, give that person a day or two to go figure out their stuff, and then let them come back and be rejuvenated and ready to go, and things are settled at home, and or whatever the issue is, right? And so so it's an excellent question, and it's something that is of the highest priority for not just me personally as a producer, but I can definitely say within The Chosen, for sure, it's a family situation, and we go through great lengths to try to figure that out, and how can we help, and what can we do to make it better for you? Because at the end of the day, people make movies, right? I mean, computers don't make movies, cameras don't make movies, lights don't make movies, people make movies. And if you don't take care of the people, then your movie's not going to be good, right? And again, this industry has such a kind of a churn and burn type mentality. Like, well, if you don't want to do what I'm asking you to do, I'll find somebody that will, because people are begging to be in this industry. And if you don't want to do it, then I'll just find somebody else. If you don't want to work for free, or you don't want to work for this rate or whatever. And sure, there's some truth to, hey, if our budget is what our budget is, and I can only pay you this much, then, but at the same time, I don't get mad at people for taking a quote unquote better job. Like, I'm not going to hold that against you. I'm not going to hold it against you that you want to go pay your bills. Like, why would I do that? I mean, and if anything, there are times we found out that people get offered jobs and we make them leave. We're like, no, you are going on that show. You're going to go and leave our show and go there, and we'll find somebody else, and we'll see you again. And because this is all relational, right? The movies, they will come and go, and the TV shows will come and go, and and it'll be forgotten and or remembered in a very faint way or whatever. But at the end of the day, these relationships, and I have people that I have been making movies with, like on that very first movie that Dallas and I made together, the same production designer from that very first movie is the production designer on The Chosen, James Cunningham. And James has done, golly, 6 or 8 of my movies. And I want to say he's done at least 1 or 2 of Dallas's features, and then a lot of his short films. And so it's one of these things where we love James to death, now we fight like brothers, right? And we all want to headbutt each other and get mad, but that's the relationship, right? Because we have this history there. But it's not just his genius. I mean, if you've seen The Chosen, you can see his genius at work. It's the perfect example of his genius at work as a production designer, because so many of the things in The Chosen, it was a blank slate, and everything you're seeing is done. There's no like, oh, well, we walked into this room and this is, here's your office and it's great. And we just need to change some things, but it's an office, right? Versus it was literally nothing. And James turned it into something. And again, you combine that with the keys and the cinematography, and again, it kind of takes us back to that perfect storm sort of thing of the show. So, but that kind of shows it, that there's a family mentality there of that we've all worked together for years and years on projects and projects. And again, that is something you see a lot of times in Hollywood. You know, it's that director working with that same designer or that same DP or those same actors or whatever it is, because there's a relationship there that can that you can rely on. But it's same thing with family. If James ever has an issue, then I'm sending him home to go fix that issue so he can come back and do his job, you know? So yeah, it's important. So good question.
And with that, we're going to wrap up this episode of the Producer Podcast Highlights. Stay tuned for more Producer Podcast highlights, as well as news on upcoming new episodes and seasons of the show. Until then, make sure to subscribe to the Producer Podcast, and thanks for listening.